Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week, we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree Bynan, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We're so glad that you're here. I have wonderful guests with me tonight. You're going to love hearing from them. I have Mrs. Karen Turk, who is just newly crowned Mrs. Wellington 2015. And in addition to that, she is also a caregiver, which is going to be our theme today. She is a caregiver for her mother, who is living with Alzheimer's disease. So we're going to talk to her about what that role means to her. And we're also going to hear from her mother's music therapist, a good friend of mine, and a colleague, Brian Hallilay. He's a board-certified music therapist. We're going to hear from him as well. So, as you can probably already assume, our theme for today is going to be talking about caregiving. So that is also going to be our word of the day, caregiving. That is important to know for a few reasons. We have some pretty incredible giveaways today. One that I will let you know about. First of all, for the first half of our show, Brian is also in an acoustic cover band with his girlfriend Elisa, and we may have a little surprise from them later, so keep listening. And they would love to give away a 1-hour gig. You do not want to pass this up. They're excellent. They've done weddings. They do open mics. They've been at restaurants. They are wonderful. Brian's going to talk to you about where you can hear their music later, but they're going to give away a 1-hour gig today, which is pretty incredible, to a third caller to our number. So call into our show. The third caller will win that. The word of the day is caregiving. This is a really important topic, and you're probably going to hear us talk about this a lot on our show because it's, like I said, it's very important, and especially in the area that we live in Southeast Florida, it's a very prevalent concern. We need to be taking care of our caregivers, basically the individuals who are often giving so much of who they are to others, often neglect themselves, and it's a really challenging job. So it's a really important topic for us to be discussing today, and also to be talking about how music therapy and creative arts therapies can play a role in that. So as we get started, I just want to share a little bit of information. We really live in an area where we have a wealth of information from some amazing professionals for caregiver resources. So I spoke to a couple people in our community, Bright Star Home Care, which is a company that we partner with, actually, and they provide music therapy services to the community. And Alzheimer's, let me make sure I get the title right, Alzheimer's Care Resource Center, which is another great resource for the community, specifically for caregivers, and they've both shared some caregiver coping techniques that I wanted to share with you all today. Setting priorities. That's at the top of this list from Alzheimer's Care Resource Center. When first establishing yourself as a primary caregiver, determine what duties and responsibilities you can handle and those that you cannot, and write these down and share them with your family. Although many caregivers feel as though they should do everything, and I'm sure Karen, you'll attest to that later, they do need to set limits for themselves and set reasonable expectations so that you don't get frustrated, you don't burn out. That's a really significant issue, is that caregiver burnout. So a lot of these tips are helping to reduce that by honestly taking care of yourself and recognizing that that's not selfish. That is a really healthy thing to do. One of my favorite analogies to use, and I've used it in my own life, also thinking about work life as well, is you can only fill up the cups of others if your pitcher is full. So if you think about that, if your pitcher is empty, what can you give to others? You really need to take care of yourself, and that's not a selfish thing. Reaching out to others. Again, that goes back to that I'm Superwoman, I'm Superman, I need to take on all of this, I can do it on my own. And I'm sure many times our caregivers can do that. They realize that they have strengths that they didn't even know they had. But it's okay to reach out to others and to accept that support. Exercise and diet. And I was in a presentation this morning with a woman from the FAU Memory and Wellness Center. Was talking about brain health, and she said she avoids those words, exercise and diet, which I thought was interesting because sometimes that can be intimidating. Oh, I don't go run 5 miles a day. I'm not exercising, or I don't want to be on a specific diet. So just even reframing that to just being healthy. So just moving, getting up and moving, doing a little walking, just watching what you eat, and not to deny yourself of things. Certainly as a caregiver with stress, you're going to need some chocolate cake once in a while, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just being mindful and being healthy of what your limitations are with that as well. The better you feel from the food you're eating, the stronger you feel, the better caregiver that you'll be able to be. Sharing the load, again, that goes back to reaching out to individuals who are offering their help is really important. Keeping your own medical appointments might sound like a no-brainer, but it's not. I've experienced that working in the healthcare field, dealing with caregivers. They forego taking care of themselves, just like we talked about with diet and exercise, living that healthy life, to make their loved one their priority. And it's, again, we need to take care of yourself so that you are able to be there for the long run for your loved one. Taking a break now and then, that's okay. Allowing yourself to do that, allowing yourself to take that time. And again, knowing that it's not selfish, that it's healthy for you. Planning ahead. Says to be an effective caregiver, you need to be more than reactive, you need to be proactive. Caregiving is not a fixed activity. A patient's condition and needs are changing nearly all the time, and it's imperative for you and your caregiving team to anticipate and plan for as many different scenarios as possible. I think this goes right back to reaching out to others, because how would you know to plan for some things if you've never been in this position before? So reaching out to either professionals or friends that have been down that road and hearing their advice, I think, is an excellent option. It doesn't mean you don't know how to do what's best for your loved one. It's, again, another smart option for saving that frustration for yourself and being able to have a proactive, a positive response to issues that will come up in the future. Getting connected. We talked about this last week, the importance of being connected with your community, with volunteering, with being a part of a community organization, a church, whatever it means to you, whatever, a synagogue, where you can meet those that support you, are a good support system for you. Tapping into programs and services early in your role as a caregiver can help make the journey easier to manage. An outside professional can also bring great objectivity and insight to challenging situations. Absolutely. And we are lucky to live in an area that is rich with those resources and those professionals. Again, taking time for yourself without the guilt. It's important to remind yourself that it's, again, I know I'm repeating it, but it's a good point to hammer home. It's not selfish to do that. It's being proactive. Like they said, taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Relaxing, reminding yourself to have patience. Taking a few deep breaths is a good thing in a lot of situations. It's a role that can bring on frustrations, and that's okay to feel that and to honor that. But thinking about how frustrated your loved one is as well. And just reminding yourself to have that bit of patience. So these are some tips just from some of the individuals that we connect with and work with in the community on caregiving. And you're gonna hear a lot of these brought up again as we're talking to Karen Turk. She's talking about her mother, and that she's been a caregiver for. Her mother lives with Alzheimer's disease. Karen and I actually met on a planning committee for the Walk to End Alzheimer's for West Palm Beach, who we talked about last week. And as she was sharing her personal story, which we'll hear later, she expressed interest in learning more about music therapy. And so we're going to hear about how that journey has been for her and her mother, hearing from both Karen and from Brian Hallilay, their board-certified music therapist. We're so glad you're here to join us tonight, and we will see you after the break. Thank you. The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I forgot to mention in the first part of the show, not only do we have the giveaway that we're doing tonight, as a reminder, word of the day is caregiving. And our first giveaway that we've talked about is a 1-hour gig by Brian Hallilay's band, which is he and his girlfriend, Elisa, who you'll hear from later today. Third caller to the show will receive that giveaway. So please do call in. We'd love to hear from you. Also, you can join our conversation tonight on Twitter at PBMTI is our handle, and Karen House, who you heard me interview last week, is live on Twitter, and she's going to be answering any questions that you might have about Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute, music therapy. If there's anything she can't answer at the time, she'll reach out to myself or one of the guests, and we would love to keep the conversation going with you online. I am so excited to introduce my first guest. This is Karen Turk, the newly crowned Mrs. Wellington of 2015. So we're so excited to have you here, Karen. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here, Bree. Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure to meet you through your work in the community, which I know you're very passionate about. So I'd love it if you could share a little bit about the organizations that you work with in the community and what they mean to you.
I work with so many organizations, and you and I met through the Alzheimer's Association, and obviously that's one that's really near and dear to my heart, because we're going to talk a lot today about me being a caregiver with my mother who suffers from Alzheimer's. But I also am very passionate about children's charities. I have 6 kids myself. I'm also a grandmother. So those are things that are really close to my heart. And I work with Place of Hope, which is an organization right here in Palm Beach County that is actually the largest provider of foster care to children in our county. And I also work a lot with JAFCO, which is another organization that helps adoption and foster care.
That's wonderful. And I realized that watching another interview with you today, your involvement with JAFCO, and we actually also do music therapy programs, their weekly programs, which has been a wonderful opportunity. And we also do Grandma's Place, is another foster care organization. So it's been awesome to use music as a medium to help reach these kids and connect them to each other, but also give them a voice to express themselves.
It's amazing to me because it really is the universal language, and I feel that way with my mom, which we'll get into. But it's amazing for me to just see that it transcends all generations and all walks of life, and music touches everybody in some way. And you're a musical person. Obviously, this is your career, but as somebody who's not in this business, it just really touches me how amazing it is that no matter what walk of life you're in, music is that universal language.
Well, we're so thankful to have you as an advocate for music, especially in these situations that are vulnerable and maybe they wouldn't have as much access to music. So we appreciate that for sure. And I know that your new role as Mrs. Wellington, and I hope you tell us a little bit about the Mrs. Florida pageant coming up, is going to increase your ability to reach the community.
That's why I'm doing it. I mean, that's truly the reason. I'm not a pageant girl. This isn't something that I looked to do and said, I want to be in a pageant. This was about the community service I was already doing and being recognized for that and having the opportunity to take that to a whole other level and be able to help the organizations that I'm currently working with, as well as other organizations in the community that can benefit from me being involved with them. So I am so excited to have this title and so excited to go on to the Mrs. Florida pageant this May.
And what does that mean in Mrs. Florida? What would your responsibilities be?
Really a lot of community service, a lot of being able to reach out and doing it on a statewide level. I mean, right now I'm kind of doing it in my own backyard as Mrs. Wellington and in Palm Beach County, but this would allow me to really broaden my reach and be able to reach everyone in Florida and be able to touch the entire state in a way that I haven't been able to do before. So I'm really excited.
That's really exciting. I know how passionate you are about things locally. I can only imagine the impact that you would have on a state level.
I would love to have that opportunity. So I hope I get that.
Yes, we'll be cheering for you.
Thank you.
All right. So when you and I met as part of the Alzheimer's Association Planning Committee for Walk to End Alzheimer's, you did share a little bit about your journey, your personal journey with Alzheimer's. Would you mind sharing that?
No, I'd be happy to. I mean, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's young. She was, 69 years old, which, a lot of us don't imagine having to deal with, this type of disease until much later in life. And at 69, fortunately, she was, aware enough to be able to come to me and my father and say, the doctor thinks I may have Alzheimer's and it may progress, and I want both of you to be aware that this is happening with me. And I watched my grandma go through it. My aunt had Parkinson's with some Alzheimer's also. So we had family members that had also struggled with this disease. So I kind of knew it was on the horizon, but you don't really realize the impact that it has until it's somebody who's very close to you. So I watched her go from just having sort of mild memory loss and some things that, weren't as sharp as they used to be, to really being where she is now, which is into really mid to advanced Alzheimer's. So I've watched that transition really over the past six, 7 years has been the most change that we've seen. Before that, it was kind of just being aware that this might happen. And now 6, 7 years, we've really actively been dealing with it.
And I'm a big believer in, people come into other people's lives at the right time for a reason. And this was my first time, being involved with this walk, which I was so glad that I was. And obviously getting to meet you at this opportunity. But it seems like at that point, you had a turning point with your mom. And you were starting to look for additional services for her. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I did. And, what happened with her is, I think once you go from really being in, the mild stages of Alzheimer's where, my mom would always recognize me and she'd always recognize my kids. And, she was really, in a position where her forgetfulness wasn't affecting her everyday life. She had an episode where she fell, which I think is very common to a lot of older people. And all of a sudden, things really changed. And she got to the point where she wasn't remembering me on a daily basis or my kids. And things started to slip. And, we had gone really the traditional therapy route, and she had been seeing a psychiatrist and other psychotherapists. And that really seemed to not be working as well anymore. And I wanted to bring her something that would really, truly bring her happiness. And even if I can get a little moment of happiness, I feel like that's enough. And she doesn't care whether you're there for an hour or 10 minutes. What she cares about that moment that she's in and how happy she is. And I knew that music for her was something that had always been a huge part of her life and something that was important to her. And it's amazing to me, since getting involved in doing music therapy, how much she's reacted to that and what a difference it's made, and memories that are coming forth for her and things that I thought she had forgotten about or didn't remember. And those songs are bringing that out. And it's amazing to see. I'm such a fan of music therapy now because of this experience.
That's excellent. For those who are listening on the radio, you aren't seeing this huge beaming smile that happened when you started to talk about it. It was really it's contagious.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it's, I got, and I'm not, traditional psychotherapy certainly has its place, and, she's still being seen by a lot of professionals, but, it's difficult when you get to a point where you can't communicate properly and you have somebody going in and asking you, well, what's wrong today? How do you feel today? Are you depressed today? Are you feeling anxious today? And her answer typically is yes, because she doesn't remember and she does feel anxious and she is overwhelmed. And the memory loss has a lot to do with that. But when Brian comes in and Brian talks to her and sings with her and brings up familiar songs, it's a different reaction that we get from her. So I really can see a huge difference in her in general after he comes and does a session. So, awesome. It's it's really been an amazing experience.
That's great. And you had such a, even though it was your introduction to music therapy, hadn't really, from what I understand, hadn't had any experience with music therapy
Not
before.
at all.
But had such a good understanding from the beginning. I remember our first kind of conversations. You're like, these are the songs she likes.
Yeah.
This is the music she likes. Let's find someone who can, and I love that because it's so true. And we talk about that a lot in our field is it has to be that patient and family preferred music. That's what's going to reach the individual. So that was our priority in finding, connecting with a music therapist is what was going to reach her. And I'm sure you've seen what the difference that makes.
Yeah, I mean, and I certainly want to talk to Brian, on air too, so I don't want to steal our whole conversation that we're going to have later. But, we actually had a conversation just a few days ago about a song that he sang with my mother and all these memories that flooded in for her when he sang that song. And, there's a little bit of truth in everything my mother says. And I say this to my kids and I say this to her caregivers. There's always something in what she says that you may not understand the big picture, but there's a grain of truth in there. And when he told me the reaction that she had to that song, everything that she told him was true. And it was all memories that she had from many years ago that song brought out. What an amazing thing, because this is somebody who on a daily basis, you may not be able to have a conversation with and say to her, hey, where were you in 1974? But all of a sudden you sing that song from 1974 and she says, oh, I know where I was. I was in Teaneck, New Jersey, and my daughter was 2 years old, and I remember what I was doing, and that to me is just invaluable. You can't put a price on that, and I don't think that there's any other type of therapy that would have brought that out in my mom.
That's really interesting to hear, and you bring up so many good points that I know a lot of us have seen in sessions is that those moments where that clarity is back, those memories are back, or maybe even just that familiar smile is back. We hear that so often from caregivers of what that means to them and what the comfort that brings them, especially when there's sometimes in some situations we go and there's days, weeks, months that pass that there isn't maybe a meaningful interaction, an eye contact. And I know that this is speaking of different levels,
Right.
throughout the disease, eye contact or remembering a name or having a conversation, and then to come in and once we recognize that, we try to schedule those music therapy sessions when we know family can be there, right? So just come see. We'll make a believer of you, right? To see them sing full lyrics, to be smiling, to be alert and awake for 30 to 50 minutes. I mean, pretty amazing things to have that window open for that relationship again. I mean, I should just speak for myself, but I think I'm speaking for everyone in the room, that's one of the biggest honors I'll ever have in my life, is to be able to help facilitate that connection between our patients and caregivers.
It's amazing. I mean, that's the bottom line. It is absolutely amazing to me, and it's amazing to see, again, those memories flood back and the things that she's able to bring with those songs is, to me, just something that I really didn't think that she was capable of. But it makes all the sense in the world to me at the same time, knowing who my mom is and knowing that, I drive in the car, and I was telling you on the way here, there's songs that touch all of us and things that I feel like I actually texted my assistant on the way here and I sent her a song and I told her that, if I ever need a music therapist, to let them know that I really like this song because it's a song that makes me happy and it puts me in my happy place.
And probably takes you back to a moment too, right?
A moment, yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is all of a sudden when I hear that song, I know where I was and what I was doing, and it was that happy moment. So that's something that I think, what you do is amazing, because now I really see that. I see it with total clarity that this is what it's bringing out in my mother. And to me, that's something that traditional therapy hasn't been able to do.
Well, again, we're so happy to have, again, it's always an honor to reach any caregiver, but to also have someone who's enthusiastic as you are about giving back and caring for people, to have had the experience, although obviously through a challenging situation as being a caregiver, but to now be able to share your experience with others because music therapy isn't very well known, so you being able to share your experience, we're very grateful for that. And, we're going to talk more about this after the break when Brian comes and joins us. But, we talk about the typical responses, or, we kind of see them as the typical responses of, hey, look, you're going to get a smile, eye contact, they're going to sing when maybe they're not speaking, pretty amazing things. But Brian shared before we came on that she's doing songwriting. And so
apparently and apparently she's going on a train to New York. I'm not sure when. There's been quite a few things going on.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that when Brian comes and joins us after our break. Brian Hallilay is a board-certified music therapist working with Karen Turk's mom. He'll join us right after these commercials. Thank you. The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show.
But that's a conversation.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us. You are listening and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We've been talking about caregiving today, the challenges, some coping strategies, and particularly how music therapy can not only be an effective strategy for working with those with Alzheimer's, but also for bringing comfort to caregivers as well. You heard from Karen Turk, new Mrs. Wellington 2015, as she talked about caring for her mother who is living with Alzheimer's disease, and how she reached out to myself actually about finding a music therapist in the community. And I then connected her with a good friend, colleague of mine, Brian Hallilay. He's a board-certified music therapist. Another Nazareth College alumni. We heard from Karen House last week. Brian and I did not go to school at the same time, but we didn't even learn until we moved down here, actually. But next week, actually, we're going to be talking to our professor, Dr. King from Nazareth College. So we're just shouting out to Rochester all month, Rochester, New York. So Brian, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So we are talking to Karen. She's been sharing a lot about her mother's responses to music that's even surprised her. Even she said, it makes sense. I understand why. My mother's always loved music. She is very expressive with music, but now it's just kind of coming together. It's clicking that music therapy is a really great option for her mom. So, in your words, why do you think that music, specifically music therapy, is such a good way to connect with those with Alzheimer's?
It's. I mean, just like Karen was saying, it's just another tool, I think, to be able to reach those who maybe have trouble communicating, or just like a typical method might not work for, like therapy, traditional therapy. It's just when you use music, it involves so many different parts of the brain, and it allows you to bring back those memories where you hear that song and then instantly it brings you back to that moment. Oh, I remember this thing at this time, and I smelt this sense, or whatever it connects you with your senses. And because it's such a process that involves so much of your brain, it's a powerful tool. That's, for some people, it's just super effective.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, I have to play layman. I know. What goals you're working on, but I would love for you to explain, to those who are listening at home. So we're using music as a medium, you're using music as a medium, but it's not just to sing together and have fun, although that's obviously an important byproduct of it and why music works so well. Right. But what goals are you specifically working on when you're visiting someone with Alzheimer's?
Well, there's certain domains that you want to address for each client, but I would say for a typical case with someone with Alzheimer's, you're definitely going to work on maybe some more of the social emotional aspect. So whether it's being okay, feeling okay to communicate and interact maybe with other people, but also just interact with another person. I mean, that's a huge thing. Being able to open up and not, shelter yourself and really express what's going on, and it's amazing to see too how, when you do hit that right song, all of a sudden sometimes you get this reaction. It's just a beautiful thing.
So what have some of those right songs been?
Oh, yeah, Brian
Yeah.
knows. We just talked about this yesterday. I won't steal your thunder.
Sure.
You can go ahead.
Well, we did. I know when I initially spoke with you, Karen, there were specific songs, like we spoke with Dayenu was definitely a big one.
Yeah.
Which we've done. That was one of our first songs we did.
Great.
Of course, Sound of Music.
Sound of
She's
Music.
a
Big fan.
Big fan of that. Yep.
Yeah.
And so we did a few songs from that. Interestingly, and this wasn't on plan.
This was not planned.
We ran into country music along the way. Apparently,
And
Diane,
that surprised you? You didn't-
I
Yeah.
had absolutely no idea. Apparently, my mom is a John Denver fan. She's also a big Brian fan, too. But we won't get into all of that today. But yeah, and you said she knew all the lyrics to the John Denver song.
She sang right along. It was great. We did a little bit of Country Roads, and when I actually spoke with her about it initially. Let me kind of back up a little bit.
And she probably referred to it as folk music. Am I correct?
Oh, she didn't say necessarily.
No?
folk
Okay, because
music.
I would imagine that she may have said that, because I know there was a period of time where she was into folk music.
There we go.
So,
okay.
She's
Yeah.
surprising you, though.
That's-
She is.
Yeah.
She's
And that's funny because John Denver, he does kind of cross into that a little bit.
Yeah,
so that
and I'm
makes
thinking of
sense.
Arthur Guthrie too is another one.
Oh,
Now that we
okay.
started to
Yeah.
talk about this, you may have to explore that too.
Okay, absolutely. And that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, you start with one song, and then before you know it, you start with a whole different genre. How about this? And then you explore a whole different side of, okay, yeah, I remember this,
Which you're probably connected to a whole other set of memories and whole
Exactly.
different meaning in her life.
Exactly.
You got to tell the Fiddler on the Roof story.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so, well, I think it's okay if I go back and explain
Yeah,
a
go
bit
ahead.
more of the John Denver one? Sorry. This was pretty recent. This was actually yesterday at the session. I haven't even had a chance to explain to you yet.
Okay.
So when I first got in for the session, it was your mom. She was saying how, I just have this memory of hitchhiking in New York, or not hitchhiking. I'm sorry, hiking, not hitchhiking. The other hiking.
There's been a lot of things are coming out about
It's
my
right.
mom now, so nothing surprises
Yeah,
me.
it's just to come.
Unlocks
But-
many doors, music, doesn't it? Yeah.
absolutely.
Exactly. But so she was talking about hiking and brought about the Tappan Zee Bridge and different sites in New York, and she was like, I was just this beautiful wide open space and all these greens and everything, and she's like, she asked me, could you pick a song that would go with that kind of feeling? And I was like, that's wonderful. That's right.
I know.
That was a beautiful moment. I was like, okay, I'm seizing this. All right, we're gonna do. And so my
Her and
mind,
Brian have clicked.
We
There's
got
no question. Yeah,
definitely.
they clicked.
Figured each other out. And so my mind jumped to John Denver Country Roads, because of course the main chorus is all about take me home to the place where I belong. All these beautiful landscapes, and she sang along with some of the chorus for it, and it was wonderful to see that she reacted to it, and what ended up turning into a little more life review from there, where she talked about how living in Brooklyn and having grass on the roads was something that she mentioned, and I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting. That almost sounds like kind of a lyric. So then we jumped into, well, what if we rewrote this song a little bit and we included some of your memories into this song? And so we ended up rewriting the song into a version that was just for your mom as
How
well.
cool.
So
Very
yeah.
cool. And you actually have a recording of this, right?
Yes,
and
yeah.
with her voice is in it as well?
Yes. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, so because that just happened yesterday, which is so
Literally
amazing, we
yesterday,
didn't have time to get it on the show, nor did you even know that it had
I didn't know
happened,
about it until I walked in.
Surprise.
So,
That's great. I can't wait to get it.
yeah, so if it's all right, ask you on the air.
Absolutely.
We would love to follow up with that next week and maybe play that clip just as a kind of follow-up from this week, because I think what an amazing moment that is, and to capture, just kind of tie up everything that we're talking about
That's
today.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, so what were some of, talked about the grass and the road, what were some other things that she offered to
It
song?
was a lot of kind of just talking about within that session she was talking more about wanting to go and wanting to go home, and that was kind of what also linked back to that song, and just kind of speaking in general kind of about Brooklyn, and it was mainly those two lyrics, the grass on the roads and then Tappan Zee Bridge, and so incorporated those two lyrics and rewrote the song into that.
having that strong connection to Brooklyn at home, does that sound familiar to you?
Oh,
Is
it
that-
makes total
yeah.
sense. I mean, she grew up in Brooklyn. She spent, most of her young life and teenage life in Sheepshead Bay and Manhattan Beach. So, those are pleasant memories for her. And it's wonderful because if I walked in there and I said, hey, Mom, where did you grow up? She wouldn't be able to give me that answer. But Brian goes in there and he sings a song that speaks to her. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know where I'm from. I mean, which to me is just an amazing sort of revelation, because otherwise I don't think that she would ever bring that up.
Wow, that's really powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Absolutely. So we've kind of covered in broad, topics about specifically talking about what Karen's mom's responses are, but in the context of the songwriting, things like that. What are some other techniques that you would use in a session, in a music therapy session? Obviously, you're using music, whether it's live or recorded. How would you approach that with her?
Yes, I mean, well, it should probably start with, each session is kind of different. When you first walk in, of course, you want to see where the patient is at and kind of start with wherever they are. If they're maybe feeling more anxious, you can kind of see some of their behavioral signs that's going on. There's a technique called the ISO principle, and you can usually find, not usually, of course, you find some kind of stimulus that you can start with, something like a breathing rate, or something that's kind of a repetitive timing, and you start with matching that timing to the music. So, of course, it's a patient-preferred song of some sort, and you start with that tempo of music, and then you bring it to wherever you need it to go. So in the instance that, say, a patient is feeling more anxious, then you start at that tempo, and then you would slowly decrease the tempo. And as the ISO principle will show, the patient responds to that and starts to relax. You'll start to notice these subtle signs that they start to react. Their body just syncs right up to the music itself. So it's one of the techniques. Music-assisted relaxation is kind of the general term, but yeah, it's one of the ways to go.
So interesting when, go in and do a presentation and people say, well, I'm not very musical, or, I don't have any formal training. I don't think that'll work for me. But that totally speaks to how just by being human, how rhythmic, how musical we are, which is just incredible example of how music just taps into the core of us without us really even noticing that. What are some things that you have learned? I know you've worked with several different populations. You worked in hospice care, where you used music to treat a whole host of different diagnoses, all different age ranges, different settings, facilities. What has working with someone with Alzheimer's disease taught you about being a music therapist?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I mean, definitely what comes to mind is something that you spoke to earlier, which is that even though someone may be suffering with Alzheimer's, there is still part of them that you can reach. And there are, like you called, grains of truth
just like
within
the
that.
grass on the streets. And I'm thinking to myself, is that a median with grass? Is that cobblestones with grass in between? It could mean a number of things. I know obviously there weren't grass on the streets, but there's a grain of truth in there. There's
Exactly.
something that she's remembering that she can't verbalize
Right.
in the proper way, but it's always there. And it usually takes us a couple of days to figure out exactly what it is. But between me and my daughters, a few days later, we'll be sitting around and we'll be like, oh, that's what that meant.
Right.
So it's pretty neat to see.
And it's so neat to kind of unravel those little gems of, personality, of memory, of, even though it might not make sense in the context that it's being said, as you get to know the person, you get to learn more about them, and then you start to really kind of decipher what it is they really meant and what the real memory was or what is associated with. So it's such a neat thing.
I just, again, if you're listening on the radio or not watching the video, you can't see. All of us are just smiling. We can't talk about this. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I know I will tell anyone. I probably say it every week, and I'm sorry, but I have the best job in the world, and I'm, just the opportunity to be able to have others come on, and those that are experiencing it to share their experience. I mean, I'm so grateful for that. One quick question before we go to commercial break. And this is really kind of specific to you rather than to music therapy in general. Just you in particular are one of the finest guitar players I know as a music therapist. And how do you feel like that contributes to your sessions, that ability, your comfort with the guitar?
It definitely is a really fortunate tool, I think, that I have at my disposal. Feeling so comfortable with guitar, in one sense, it allows me to really focus on more of the patient, kind of see what is going on with them, because I don't have to worry so much about what's happening musically. But another part of it is by having more ability, more skill with it, I'm able to incorporate more things, more technically difficult things with the guitar. I can do, more melodic lines. I can be more... I can give more creative strumming patterns. I can get the music to be that much more like the original song that it is that they're responding to, and that sometimes can really make the difference, where it kind of just creates this whole atmosphere of you're hearing the real song. There's no barrier, and the closer you can get to that, the higher level of musicianship, the better, I think.
That's a wonderful advantage to have, and like you said, just being that much more of your attention can go to the actual therapy and what's going on with the patient. So that's great. We are going to have the absolute treat of getting to hear those guitar skills in a little bit after we come back from this break. Thank you so much. The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com, engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in with Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. Our word of the day is caregiving. We've had a giveaway today to a caller for a gig. Brian Hallilay, one of our guests today, board-certified music therapist. He is also a musician at heart, of course, and he plays in an acoustic cover band with his girlfriend, Elisa, who is also a board-certified music therapist. Actually, she works with Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute as well. She's going to be coming on in a minute. You'll get to hear them. They are giving away a 1-hour gig. You will hear in a moment just how beautiful it is to hear them play and sing together. And we also have another giveaway, so if you are trying to call in, you don't get that first one, Karen just said something very exciting along our musical note. If you would like to share.
Well, and I'm going to do it in honor of my mom, since I now know that my mom is a country music fan. Who knew? We have a pair of Zach Brown Band tickets at the Perfect Vodka Amphitheater on Sunday, November 15th that we'll be giving away. The concert starts at 7 p.m. and you can call in and try to win those tickets also.
Awesome. So, again, call in. We're going to take our third and fourth caller now. Third caller, you're going to get a 1-hour gig, wedding, private party, birthday party, special event, a duo, acoustic cover band, beautiful. And our fourth caller, we are going to have a pair of Zach Brown Band concert tickets.
I would do amazing. John Denver if I could.
Yeah, maybe you'll hear John Denver when Brian plays.
There you go.
There you go. If we do not have the callers finding the show, we're going to roll it over to our live tweet with Karen House, so continue the conversation over there. I want to take this opportunity to give both of you a chance to let people know how they can reach out to you. I know, Brian, again, we're talking about not only a music therapist, actually you're doing many things with your career at this point, but you're also a musician playing a band. So how can people get in touch with you, hear your music, find out more about you?
Absolutely. The group's name that we have is Counseled and Composed, and it's available. We have a Facebook page. You can look us up on there. We also have a SoundCloud in case you want to hear some audio clips. So we have a few songs we've tried, and then also a Gig Salad in case if you want to book us for any type of event. That's a great way to reach us.
That's wonderful. And Karen, how can people get in touch with you? You've got a lot going on. Talk a little bit about your business, but also your appearances and everything.
I will. I mean, I'm pretty visible. You can pretty much find me. It's Karen Turk, KarynTurk. My husband also is an elder law attorney, so I help to manage his practice. He does a lot of asset protection law, including elder law, and that's with Principal Counsel. So you can reach us at principalcounsel.com. It's PRINCIPLE. counsel.com. And if you want to reach me, I'm on Facebook, Karen Turk. I also have my own website and blog, which is KarenTurk.com. And I would love to connect with other people. I believe in musical therapy or I wouldn't be here, but I'm out and about, and anything I can do to raise awareness about Alzheimer's disease and help other people to understand the position I'm in and how they can help as a caregiver, I'm here.
That's wonderful. And just in case anyone missed our first part, because we talked earlier in the show, can you talk a little bit about, obviously, your new title, Mrs. Wellington 2015, what advantages that has for you to give back to the causes you care about in the community?
Well, I'm also adopted, so not to give away my whole story today, because that's a talk show in itself, but being adopted, I have a connection to Place of Hope right here in Boca Raton and also up in Palm Beach Gardens. They are the largest provider of foster care in Palm Beach County. I'm an angel mom for them. Do a lot of work with them. I believe in the cause and what they do because I realized as a child who was adopted, if circumstances hadn't been the way that they were for me, my life could be very, very different. And I thank every day for what I've been given and the opportunities that are ahead of me now and the opportunities I've had in my past. And that's because other people have taken chances on me. And I love what these organizations do, whether it be Place of Hope or also the other organization that I'm involved with, JAFCO, where they give kids the opportunity, kids that are disadvantaged, that maybe don't have the best circumstances, and they give them a chance to really excel in life. So that's why I'm passionate about both of those organizations. There's a lot of other causes that I believe in, and my title of Mrs. Wellington gives me ability not only to work with the charities that I'm already working with, but also to reach out into the community. And if there are other worthy charities that would like me to get involved, I'm available to speak and to advocate and to do what I can to help. And that's what I want to make the next 8 months about as Mrs. Wellington, being able to reach out in the community and being able to give these charities a platform to be able to speak to an audience and get people in the community involved.
That's awesome. And last week we talked about community and the importance of volunteering. I'm so appreciative for everything you do. And thank you for sharing a little of your story with us. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but actually my husband is adopted, and because of that, I'm also a really big advocate for adoption. And we were on a road trip to Naples, and I happened to see the JAFCO billboard on the way over, and I got right on my phone to email them because I wanted to be connected with that in some way because of our personal connection with adoption and absolutely recognizing the amazing opportunity that has given my husband and in turn myself. And so we're really proud to be connected with them. Awesome to know that you are working with them as well. We have a few minutes left today. I've been promising you all show that you would get to hear Brian and his girlfriend play from their band Counseled and Composed. I'm actually going to sneak out and Elisa's going to come on. So we're going to do a quick switch and please enjoy the music.
It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey baby, I think I wanna marry you. Is it the look in your eyes, or is it this dancing juice? Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you. Well, I know this little chapel on the boulevard we can go. No one will know. Oh, come on, girl. Who cares if we're trash? Got a pocket full of cash we can blow. Shots of Patron, and it's gone, girl. Don't say no, 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 no. Just say yeah, 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 yeah. And we'll go, 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 go. If you're ready, like I'm ready, 'cause it's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey baby, I think I wanna marry you. Is it the look in your eyes, or is it this dancing juice? Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Well, you had a really wonderful opportunity to not only meet Mrs. Wellington, but the world's cutest couple. So this is going to be a very exciting night.
And I sat in the middle of it, and I'm like, I felt like I was in your living room. Like, that was special.
That was so beautiful. Absolutely. Thank you both so much. I just asked Elisa to do that about an hour and a half ago, so I really appreciate that she came on and joined us for that. Thank you so much. Again, we've only got a few minutes left, but anyone calling in, we've still got the gig available. Now you've heard them. Now those lines should be blowing up. Also the Zac Brown tickets. If we don't take a winner tonight, we're going to roll it over to Twitter and continue the conversation there. I just want to thank, again, my guests, Karen Turk, thank you so much for being on today, sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely,
thank you.
Such an honor. And Brian, thank you so much for taking your time to come talk with us today.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The work that you are doing with Karen's mom, it's just amazing. It's inspiring to hear, even for those of us in the field, to hear stories like this. It reignites our passion for what we do, and it's just a really special thing that's going on. I'm honored to just be talking to you, to be a part of it. We are going to remind you that we do have tickets available to Zac Brown Band. Can you remind us what the information on that?
We have a pair of tickets to Zac Brown. It's Sunday, November 15th at the Perfect Vodka Amphitheater at 7 p.m. and there are 2 tickets available.
All right, and we also have a gig. Can you share us a little bit about the different places that you might play a gig?
Oh, absolutely. We've played at definitely weddings, of course, receptions or ceremonies, whatever you prefer. We've played at open mic nights, all different types of settings, wherever you want us. We'll do bar mitzvahs. We'll do anything you want.
Wonderful. And you played a little Bruno Mars, correct?
Yes.
That
we
you just
did a
played.
little
So
Bruno
what are
Mars.
some other artists that you cover?
A few different ones. We do. Who can help me out with this one?
John
I'm trying to
Denver.
think. John Denver, right? We could certainly do. We have
Everything from like
Tracy
We have
Chapman, you do,
Tracy
right?
Chapman.
I've heard that
That's
Fast
right.
Car. It's beautiful.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's nice as we have a lot of repertoire we could use even from our working in hospice. That gives a big range of repertoire, but we do have a lot more current as well. So from 90s up through now. So.
Excellent. So we are wrapping up our show today, but the conversation will continue on social media. We are so thankful that you listened in today or watched in today. Hopefully you learned a little something and learned something about sharing music with yourself, to care for yourself, sharing it with your loved ones as well. Again, my name is Bree Bynum. Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's B-R-E-E, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions